Hello everybody, this is Refresh and I'm here to bring you an Explorers of Ixalan battle between the 2021 Challenger decks. We have Azorius Control here, Dimir Rogues there, Mono Green Stompy there, and Mono Red Aggro here. And we are going to be playing a free-for-all as per the regular rules of Explorers of Ixalan. We have the board here, and if you want to see rules for how to play that, I'll put that in the card up in the top right corner there. Azorius Control is represented by the Vampires. Dimir Rogues is represented by the Merfolk. Green Stompy is represented by the Dinosaurs, and Mono Red Aggro is represented by the Pirates. We're going to roll off on d20s, see who goes first. Azorius Control rolls a 7. Rogues rolls a 20. Stompy rolls a 15. Aggro rolls a 15. Rogues will be going first. They'll draw their opening hand. Rogues draws a Dismal Backwater, Swamp, Thieves Guild Enforcer, Swamp, Soaring Thought Thief, Eliminate, and Nighthawk Scavenger. I think this is a perfectly acceptable opening hand, so we'll keep it. Stompy draws a Kazandu Mammoth, Swarm Shambler, Gem Razor, Snakeskin Veil, Lovestruck Beast, and Forest. I guess we can keep a 2-lander, so that's what we are going to do. Aggro draws an Akum Hellhound, Royal Eruption, Kargan Intimidator, Embercleave, Bone Crusher Giant, Akum Hellhound, and a Mountain. I do not believe we should keep a single 1-lander, and so we're going to mulligan this. And because this is multiplayer, we'll draw back up to 7. Now we have a Spikefield Hazard, Akum Hellhound, Kargan Intimidator, Mountain, Torbrand Thane of Red Bell, Mountain, and Mountain. I don't love having 4 lands here, but Spikefield Hazard can be a spell, so I think we can keep this one. Control draws a Temple of Enlightenment, Island, Dream Trawler, Neutralize, Elspeth Conquers Death, and Plains. I think this is actually probably too slow for Control, so we're going to mulligan this. Now we have the Skyclave Cleric, Island, Thirst for Meaning, Plains, Shatter the Sky, Plains, and the Birth of Melidius. I think we can keep this one because we can at least shatter the sky if things get bad, and Birth of Melidius will help us ramp. Because this is multiplayer, we'll draw for our first turn. Rogues draws a Soaring Thought Thief, and we will begin by playing a Dismal Backwater. This is land, it enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. You can tap it to add blue or black. Go ahead and gain 1 life to go up to 21, and then Rogues will pass the turn. Stompy draws a Forest. We will play the Forest, and we'll tap it, and we'll cast a Swarm Shambler. This is a 0/0 Fungus Beast. It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it becomes the target of a spell an opponent controls, create a 1/1 green insect creature token. You can pay 1 and tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on it. Go ahead and add that counter right away, and then Stompy will pass the turn. Aggro draws a Shatter Skull Smashing. Go ahead and play a Mountain. We'll tap it and we'll cast an Akum Hellhound. This is a 0/1 elemental dog with landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. And then we'll pass the turn. Control draws an Island. We will go ahead and get started by playing a Plains, and then Control will pass the turn. Rogues and taps. Draws and Eliminate. We'll play a Swamp, and then we'll pass the turn, holding up Eliminate and Soaring Thought Thief as our options here. Stompy and taps. Draws, gets a Wildwood Tracker. Then we'll play another Forest here. Go ahead and tap this Forest to play another Swarm Shambler. So we'll get a counter. And then we will hold that mana to power up the 1 Swarm Shambler that we have, and we will pass the turn. Aggro and taps. Draws, gets a Mountain. We'll play the Mountain. This will trigger the Akum Hellhound, making it a 2/3. And we will swing at Rogues or Control. They both seem pretty open right now. I think Control's a more vulnerable of the two, so we'll go ahead and swing at Control for 2. Control takes 2 and goes to 18. Aggro will tap 2 and play the Kargan Intimidator. This is a 3/1 human warrior, and cowards can't block warriors. You can pay 1 to choose anyone that has not been chosen this turn. It gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Target creature becomes a coward until end of turn, and target warrior gains trample until end of turn. Then Aggro will pass the turn. Control draws a Tranquil Cove, and then Control will play an Island. We'll tap the Island in the Plains to cast Birth of Melidius. This is an enchantment, Saga, and in the first step, search your library for a basic Plains card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. On the second step, you will create a 0/4 colorless wall artifact creature token with Defender, and on third, you'll gain 2 life. We'll go search our library for the planes. Here it is. We'll put it into our hand. Shuffle. We'll put a counter on it to represent that we have finished the first step, and then we will pass the turn. At the end of Control's turn, rogues will tap 2 and cast a Soaring Thought Thief. This is a 1/3 human rogue with flash and flying, and as long as an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, rogues you control get +1/+0. And whenever 1 or more rogues you control attack, each opponent builds 2 cards. Now we'll untap. We'll draw a Thieves Guild Enforcer. We will play a Swamp, and since there are no flying blockers and Control seems the most open to attack, I think that's who we're going to swing at with the Soaring Thought Thief. Everybody's going to mill 2. Stompy mills a Seer Farron and a Thrashing Brontodon. Aggro mills a Mountain and a Embercleave. Control mills a Behold the Multiverse and a Omen of the Sea. Control doesn't have a means of blocking. We'll take 2 and go to 16. And then rogues will hold up their options and pass the turn. At the end of Rogue's turn, Stompy will tap the Forest to tap the Swarm Shambler to give it another counter. Then we'll untap. We'll draw a Scavenging Ooze. We are going to play Kazandu Valley, which is the second half of Kazandu Mammoth. It is a land and enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it for green. We're just going to hold our mana open for Snakeskin Veil and pumping the 2 Swarm Shamblers here. We want to keep the defense high, so Stompy is going to pass the turn. Aggro and taps. Draws a Mountain. We'll play the Mountain. This will give the Hellhound +2/+3. I think that the greatest threat here now is either Rogues or Stompy. We know Rogues can play at instant speed, and Stompy can grow their creatures. Since we have a bunch of extra mana, we're going to tap 1 Mountain and explore the greatest edge here. We'll have a valuable recon. We create a treasure token and look at any face down tile. Go ahead and create a treasure token, and we will look at this number 3, which is a Savage Stirring. Keep until your next turn. At the beginning of the combat on each player's turn, that player may choose a creature. Until the end of the turn, that creature gets +3/+3, gains trample, and can't attack you. Seems pretty cool. We'll go ahead and put this here. And then we'll put the Scout token on it. I don't want to trade my Intimidator for anything just yet. I think we take a little bit of hits here, so let's go ahead and swing the team at Control. And we'll spend 1 more mana to pump up the Kargan Intimidator. That's 6 damage coming against Control, and Control cannot do anything, so we'll take 6 and go to 10. And then Aggro will pass the turn. Control and taps. Draws, gets an Archon of Sun's Grace. We'll go to the second of Birth of Melez, and we'll get a wall. Here's our wall. Next we're going to play the Tranquil Cove. This is a land. It enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, you gain a life, and you can tap for white or blue. We'll go back up to 11. Then we'll tap the rest of these to cast the Skyclave Cleric. This is a 1/3 core cleric, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life. We'll gain 2 more life to go up to 13. Azura's Control will pass the turn. At the end of Control's turn, rogues will tap the swap and play a Thieves Guild Enforcer. This is a 1/1 human rogue with flash. Whenever it or another rogue enters the battlefield under your turn, each opponent mills 2 cards, and as long as opponents have 8 or more cards in their graveyard, Thieves Guild Enforcer gets +2/+1 and has Death Touch. Everybody will mill 2. Stompy mills a Wildwood Tracker and a Wildwood Tracker. Aggro mills a Kargan Intimidator and a Annex. Control mills a Elspeth Conquers Death and a Temple of Enlightenment. Then we'll tap 2 more and play another Soaring Thought Thief. This will trigger the Thieves Guild Enforcer again. Stompy mills a Forest and a Ram Through. Aggro mills a Rimrock Knight and a Spikefield Hazard. Control mills a Behold the Multiverse and a Elspeth Conquers Death. Then we'll go to Rogue's turn. Rogues will untap. Play a Nighthawk Scavenger. Knowing that Control has some whammies coming up, we're going to try to finish them off before they can accomplish much of anything here. So we're going to swing the entire team at Control. This will trigger the Soaring Thought Thief twice, and that will achieve the 8 in every graveyard. Stompy mills a Wildborn Preserver, Scavenging Ooze, Forest, and Turntimber Symbiosis. Aggro mills a Annex, Mountain, Fervent Champion, and Chalk. Control mills an Island, Shadow the Sky, Island, and Doomscar. The Soaring Thought Thieves will double pump the other creatures, making each Soaring Thought Thief a 2/3, and the Thieves Guild Enforcer will become a 5/2. We just need to survive, so we will block the 5/2 with the wall, and we will take 4 to go down to 9. Wall dies. Rogues will hold up the Eliminate and the Thieves Guild Enforcer and pass the turn. At the end of Rogue's turn, we will double tap the Forests and the Swarm Shamblers and increase the counters by 1 each. And then Stompy will untap. Stompy draws a Forest. We'll play the Forest. We'll just tap 2 mana and cast these Scavenging Ooze so we can start hoovering up some graveyards and get some more counters here. And then we will hold on the attacks for this turn and pass. Aggro untaps. Draws a Rimrock Knight. We will play another Mountain. I think we'll spend 1 mana to crack open another one of these, which is Cannon Support. The next time you deal combat damage to the player on your left, draw a card. Okay, that seems like a good plan here. This incentivizes us to attack control. We're going to use Intimidator's ability to turn the Cleric into a coward. And then we're going to swing at control with both creatures, with the Akum Hellhound as a 2/3 and the Intimidator as a 3/1. That will absolutely get through. Control will block the Hellhound with the Cleric. Aggro will pay 1 to increase the power of the Intimidator, and then we'll pay another 1 to use the ability of the Rimrock Knight, which is Boulder Rush. It's an instant adventure. Target creature gains +2/+0 until end of turn. That will pump up the Akum Hellhound into a 4/3 to defeat the Skyclave Cleric. Control will lose the Cleric, and we will take 4 damage from the Intimidator to go down to 5. Aggro dealt their combat damage, so they'll draw a card, which is another Akum Hellhound. I think it's a worthwhile spend, so we'll crack the treasure and play the other Akum Hellhound, and then Aggro will pass the turn. Control untaps, draws a Banishing Light. We're gonna finish the Birth of Melitus, getting to the 3rd step and getting us 2 life, bringing us back to 7. This is an untenable board position, so we are going to play a Plains here, and we will tap 4 mana and cast Shadow the Sky. This is a sorcery. It says each player who controls a creature with power 4 or greater draws a card, then destroy all creatures. In response, Stompy will tap the Forest and put another counter on their Swarm Shambler, giving them a creature of power 4 or greater. We'll draw the Forest. Then Rogues will lose all 3 of their creatures. Stompy will spend 1 mana to use the Scavenging Ooze's ability. They will exile the Skyclave Cleric. The Ooze will get a counter, and then Stompy will gain a life to go up to 21. Then all the creatures will die. Aggro also loses their creatures. And then Control will pass the turn. At the end of Control's turn, Rogues will tap a swamp and cast another Thieves Guild Enforcer. Stompy mills a Forest and a Lovestruck Beast. Aggro mills a Spikefield Hazard and a Mountain. Control mills a Island and a Tranquil Cove. Now it's Rogue's turns. Rogues will untap. We'll draw. We get a Swamp. We'll play the Swamp. Go ahead and swing, attacking Control in Retribution for 3 damage. Control has no blocks, so we'll take 3 and go to 4. Then Rogues will tap 3 and cast a Nighthawk Scavenger. This is a 1+*/3 Vampire Rogue with Flying Death Touch and Lifelink, and its power is equal to 1 plus the number of card types among cards in your opponent's graveyards. There are 7 different card types in all of my opponent's graveyards, so that will make this an 8/3. And then Rogues will use the last mana to explore this tile. It is a Canvas to Starboard. The next time you deal combat damage to the player on your right, draw a card. Well, we missed this opportunity, but we'll try it again next turn. And we will put our scout token on that one. Stompy untaps. Draws a Lovestruck Beast. We will play a Forest. We'll tap a Forest and play Heart's Desire. This is a sorcery adventure. Create a 1/1 human creature token. We'll tap another Forest to play a Wildwood Tracker. This is a 1/1 Elf Warrior, and whenever it attacks or blocks, if you control another non-human creature, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. We'll spend 3 more play the Lovestruck Beast. This is a 5/5 Beast Noble. It can't attack unless you control a 1/1 creature, and then Stompy will pass the turn. Aggro and taps. Draws a Bone Crusher Giant. Play another Mountain. I think we have a little bit of defense capacity here, so we're going to tap 4. Cast Torbrand, Thane of Redfell. This is a 2/4 Legendary Dwarf Noble. If a red source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent that opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. That will let us cast the Spikefield Hazard to do 3 damage. And then we will pass the turn. Control and taps. Draws a Neutralize. We will play another Plains here. This does not look good because we have lethal threats coming in from every single direction. And a target on our back for having done a board wipe here. We don't have another mass removal spell, and we don't have the mana to get one. So I think we need to just dissuade some attacks here. And so we will spend 4 mana and play the Archon of Sun's Grace. This is a 3/4 Archon with flying and lifelink. Pegasus creatures you control have lifelink, and whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 white Pegasus creature token with flying. And then Azura's control will tap the Tranquil Cove. We'll take a look at that tile over there. This is natural defenses. You create 2 sapling tokens, and an opponent of your choice creates 1 sapling token. There are saplings, and we will choose aggro to get the last sapling. Aggro gets the sapling, and control will hope that we can survive until the next round, and we will pass the turn. Rogues and taps. Draws an island. Play the island. We can't get through the Archon without losing the Scavenger, but we have another Scavenger. I think getting rid of the Archon is useful here, and so we'll swing with the Scavenger for lethal into control. Control will have to block with the Archon, trading. The Archon dies, we'll gain 3 life to go back up to 7. Scavenger dies, we'll gain 8 life to go up to 29. We'll spend 3 more mana to cast another Nighthawk Scavenger. Stompy mills a Kazandu Mammoth and a Forest. Aggro mills a Fervent Champion and a Torbrand. Control mills a Tranquil Cove and a Island. Then Rogues will pass the turn. Stompy untaps. Draws a Forest. We'll play the Forest. We'll try to whittle away the threats that Control can play because we're afraid that they might have another mass creature destruction spell. So we'll swing with the Lovestruck Beast at Control. Control will chump with a sapling. We'll spend 1 more mana to use the second Lovestruck Beast's Heart's Desire ability and get another human token. And then 3 more mana to play another Lovestruck Beast as defense. And we'll hold up 1 mana for Snakeskin Veil. We'll tap another Forest to take a look at this tile here. This is too much to carry. You can create 2 treasure tokens, and an opponent of your choice creates 1 treasure token. We'll get 2 treasures, and we'll give aggro the last treasure. And then we will pass the turn. We'll put our scout tile over here, and then we'll pass the turn. Aggro is a little concerned that they will get pulverized, but I think we can finish off control without having to do much of anything. So we'll make a deal with the other 2 players that we will not be attacked until the following turn if they finish off control and the players agree. We'll crack the treasure here and tap the mountain to cast Stomp. This is an instant adventure. Damage can't be prevented this turn, and it deals 2 damage to any target. Because of Torbrand, that will deal 4 damage to control. Control goes down to 3. Aggro and taps. Draws a shock. Here I think we'll want to use the least amount of mana possible, so we'll tap the mountain and cast Spikefield Hazard. This is an instant. It deals 1 damage to any target. If a permanent dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. We'll choose to target Control and to finish them off. Control takes lethal and perishes. Aggro will then supplant their defenses by tapping 3 mana and then casting the Bone Crusher Giant. This is a 4/3 giant with whenever it becomes a target of a spell, it deals 2 damage to that spell's controller, and then aggro will pass the turn. At the end of the turn, Rogues is going to want to start cutting down on Stompy's advantages here. Since we can't attack or mess with aggro, we'll tap 2 mana and cast Eliminate, which is an instant. It says destroy a target creature or planeswalker with converted mana cost 3 or less, targeting the untapped Lovestruck Beast. Stompy will sacrifice a treasure And cast Snakeskin Veil on the untapped Lovestruck Beast. It's an instant, says put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains hexproof until end of turn. This will make it a 6/6 and hexproof. That will bounce off the Eliminate. Nothing else to do. Rogues will untap. Draw. We get Zareth Sand Trickster. We're going to swing at Stompy, since we can't swing at aggro, with the Nighthawk Scavenger. It is flying, so it can't be blocked by Stompy. And then we're going to spend 4 mana to use Zareth Sand's ability, which is Zareth Sand is a 4/4 legendary merfolk rogue with flash, and for 2 blue and black, return an unblocked attacking rogue you control to its owner's hand. Put Zareth Sand Trickster from your hand onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may put the target permanent card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So we'll pick up the Nighthawk Scavenger and put Zareth Sand in, unblocked. This will trigger the Thieves Guild Enforcer. Stompy mills a Primal Might and a Thrashing Brontodon. Aggro mills a Royal Eruption and a Spikefield Hazard. This will deal 4 damage to Stompy, taking them down to 17. We'll take a Lovestruck Beast and play that defensively. We'll also spend 1 mana here to look at this tile. It's Walls of Adanto. Creatures can't attack you, and an opponent may pay 1 to ignore this effect until end of turn. And then Rogues will pass the turn. Stompy untaps. Draws a Stonecoil Serpent. Since we can't attack aggro this turn, I think we want to make Rogues pay, and so we're going to swing at Rogues with the larger of the 2 creatures here, and we'll pay 1 to be able to do so. Rogues will trade with the Thieves Guild Enforcer. The Lovestruck Beast goes down. We'll spend 6 mana, sacrificing the treasure, to cast a Stonecoil Serpent for 6. This is a 0/0 artifact snake, and it has reach, trample, protection from multicolored. It enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, making it a 6/6. And then Stompy will pass the turn. So we're going to just untap here. Draw an Akum Hellhound. You have to hold up 1, so we'll spend 1 to play another Akum Hellhound, 2 to play the Rimrock Knight, and then 1 last mana for us to take a look at this tile. This is Sails Unfurled. The next creature that enters the battlefield under your control enters with an additional +1/+1 counter and gains haste until end of turn. It doesn't work for us here. We're going to hold here and stay defensive and pass the turn. Rogues and taps. Gets a swamp. We'll play the swamp. We don't have a good way of getting through any defenses here. So I think we just have to get the Scavenger up to get over what my opponents are doing. We'll pay 3 to activate the Scavenger. We're going to pay 1 to take a look at this tile. This is Dusk's Embrace. The next time a creature you control dies, draw a card. And then we'll hold up Eliminate and pass the turn. Stompy untaps. Draws this Stonecoil Serpent. I think it's just good to keep our defenses up here, so since we don't have any good attacks anywhere, we'll just tap out, cast another 6 mana Stonecoil Serpent, and then we will pass the turn. At the end of Stompy's turn, aggro will tap a mountain and cast Shock. This is an instant. It deals 2 damage to any target, targeting the Nighthawk. Rogues doesn't have anything, and we'll lose the Nighthawk. Creature we control died, so we'll draw a card. Rogues draws an island, then aggro and taps. Draws a Castle Embrath. We'll play the Castle Embrath. This is a land. It enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a mountain. You can tap it for red, or you can tap it for 1 red, and creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Since we don't have much else we can do, we'll spend 3 mana and grab one of these 3 tiles. This is Savage Stirring, and keep until your next turn. At the beginning of combat on each player's turn, that player may choose a creature. Until the end of that turn, that creature gets +3/+3 and trample and can't attack you. Cool. Since we can't block with the Rimrock Knight, we'll go ahead and swing at Rogues with it. Rogues does not want to trade what they have for their Knight, so we'll take the 5 damage, go down to 24, and then we'll pass the turn. Rogues needs to get rid of some of these threats here, so we will spend 2 mana and cast Eliminate, targeting one of the Stonecoil Serpents. Stonecoil Serpent goes down. Rogues untaps. Draws a Temple of Deceit. We'll play the Temple of Deceit. It's a land that enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, scry 1. You can tap for blue or black. We'll take Black Bloom Rogue and drop it in the bottom here. Since we don't have any good attacks and we have to stay defensive, we will play the island and we'll tap 3 mana to look at this tile here. This is Blade and Claw. The next time you attack with exactly 2 creatures, untap them. They get +2/+2 until end of turn. We'll give the Lovestruck Beast +3/+3, but again, we're not really attacking, and then we will pass the turn. Stompy untaps. Draw a Ram through. This is going to be important here. We need to free a tile up, so we'll spend 1 mana to look at this one here, and this is from the Mist. Put a permanent card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your hand onto the battlefield. We don't actually have anything. And so put our Explore tile here, and we will pass the turn. Aggro untaps. Draws another Bone Crusher Giant. We can only spend 1 mana here, so we'll do so to take a look at this tile. This is cannon support. The next time you deal combat damage to a player on your left, draw a card. Okay. I mean, that's enough for us to try to swing with the Rimrock Knight. Rogues does not want them drawing a card. At this point, Zerasan can't get through, so we'll trade with the Zerasan. Rogues will pay the 1 mana to get through their Walls of Adanto. We'll lose the Rimrock Knight. Then we will put our Scout tile on this and pass the turn. Rogues and taps. Draws a Vantress Gargoyle. We'll go ahead and tap 2 mana. We'll spend 1 mana to look at this tile here. So the quest, the next time you deal combat damage to a player on the left, draw a card. We will spend 2 mana to cast the Vantress Gargoyle. This is a 5/4 artifact gargoyle with flying, and it can attack unless the defending player has 7 or more cards in the graveyard, and it can't block unless you have 4 or more cards in hand. You can tap it for each player to put the top card of the library in their graveyard. We don't really have anything good we can do here, and so we're going to pass the turn. At the end of the turn, Stompy wants to push through, and the most dangerous card is Torbrand, and so Stompy is going to tap 2 mana to cast Ram through. This is an instant. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. If the creature you control has trample, excess damage is dealt to that creature's controller instead. We'll have the Stonecoil Serpent damage Torbrand. Aggro doesn't have a way around that. Torbrand out. And we'll take 2 additional damage to go down to 18. Then we'll untap. We'll draw a forest. We're going to play the forest. We'll spend 3 mana to take a look at the tile we previously scouted. This is throw overboard, destroy a target creature you don't control. Great. I think we can start getting rid of some things. So we will blow up the Bone Crusher Giant. Bone Crusher Giant dies. And then we'll spend another 3 mana to use the Gemrazor's ability. This is a 4/4 beast with mutate 1 green. Reach trample. Whenever this creature mutates, destroy target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. We're going to mutate this onto the Wildwood Tracker, making it a 4/4, and we'll destroy the Vantress Gargoyle. The Vantress Gargoyle goes down. We're going to pay 1 to ignore the Walls of Adanto and swing at rogues with the Stonecoil Serpent, and we'll swing at aggro with the Lovestruck Beast and the Gemrazor. The Gemrazor gets +1/+1, making it a 5. I think we take the hit for now. We'll chump the Lovestruck Beast with the Akum Hellhound and take 5, going down to 13. Rogues will take 6 and go down to 18. And then Stompy will pass the turn. We're going to untap. Draw. We get another Bone Crusher Giant. I think we need to get some blockers into play. So I think we're just going to tap out. Play both Bone Crusher Giants. One of them will get a +1/+1 counter and haste. We need them for defense against Stompy, so we'll pass the turn. Rogues and taps. Draws a Zereth Sun Trickster. First we'll spend 3 mana. Take a look at this tile. We get Turn Tail. Return up to 2 target creatures controlled by different players to their owner's hands. Okay. Let's boot one of the 1/1s and the Stonecoil Serpent to reduce some damage on the next turn. Goodbye 1 human, and goodbye Stonecoil Serpent. And then we'll just hold the mana because Zerasan has flash, and we'll pass the turn. Stompy untaps. Draws a forest. Play the forest, and I guess it's just time to go big, so we'll just tap out. Make an 8/8 Stone Cold Serpent. We have only one a trade here, so we'll turn the Gem Razor at aggro. Aggro will block with their lesser Bone Crusher Giant, and so the Gem Razor goes down. The Bone Crusher Giant goes down, and Stompy will pass the turn. Aggro and taps. Draws a Royal Eruption. We'll just spend 1 mana to take a look at this one over here. We have Study the 9 Rivers. The next time you would draw a card, look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand and put the rest on the bottom of your library. We'll block out this number 6 because it may be coming free next turn. We don't have a good attack, and so we're just going to hold and pass the turn. At the end of the turn, Rogues will tap 5 mana, flash in Zero Sand Trickster, we'll untap, draw a Heartless Act. Okay, we have some options now. Rogues will spend 3 mana and take a look at the tile that they have. This is a gold-laden shipwreck. At the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token. So we'll go to the end of our turn and get a treasure. And then we'll pass the turn. Stompy draws a Wildborn Preserver, and we'll just go to combat, swinging at Rogues because it seems the more dangerous, paying 1 for the Walls of Adanto and attacking with the Stone Coil Serpent for 8. Here's our use of Heartless Act. We'll tap the island and the swamp. Then we'll cast Heartless Act. It's an instant. It says choose 1, destroy a target creature with no counters on it. Remove up to 3 counters from target creature. With 2 for 1 to remove the counters from the Stone Coil Serpent. Trade it with a Lovestruck Beast. Lovestruck Beast goes down. Stone Coil Serpent goes down. We don't have a great way to access a lot of things here, so we'll spend 1 mana to take a look at this card here. This is a Broadside Assault. It deals 2 damage to each opponent. Aggro goes to 11. Rogues goes to 16. We'll put a Scout Tile over here, and then we'll pass the turn to Aggro. Aggro untaps. Aggro will use Study the 9 Rivers here, and we will look at the top 4 cards instead of drawing a card. We have Torbrand, Rimrock Knight, Royal Eruption, and Mountain. I think Torbrand is the strongest card here, so we'll take that and put the rest on the bottom of our library, putting Royal Eruption on top, Rimrock Knight, and then Mountain in that order. We can cast Torbrand now, but I think the 6s are really powerful, so we're going to tap 6 mana and take a look at this number 6 that we have reserved. It is Might of the Sun Empire. Create a dinosaur token, then put 2/+1/+1 counters on each creature you control. Seems worth it. Here's the dinosaur. Bone Crusher will become a 7/6. Then we have a 3/3 and a 5/5. And that puts the defenses on here. 7/6 is going to be hard to beat here. And I think we can draw a card if we swing with it. So let's swing at Rogues with it. We don't want to give them the card, but we don't really have a lot that we can do here. So we'll just take the 7 and go to 9. Aggro draws a card for completing the quest, which is a mountain. We'll play the mountain. That completes all of these quests. And then we will hold up to the defense here and pass the turn. Aggro is going to protect this tile here. That was a rules error, but I don't think we can rewind that easily. So because this 3 was here, we couldn't take the 6, but we'll just have to go with it as it is. And then we'll go to Rogue's turn. Rogue's untaps. Draws a Vantress Gargoyle. We'll spend 1 mana to grab this. It's Kansas Starboard. The next time you do a combat turn, superior on your right, draw a card. So no matter who we attack, we'll be drawing cards. We'll spend 2 more mana to play the Vantress Gargoyle. At the end of the turn, we'll get another treasure. And then we are going to put our Scout on here, and we'll pass. Stompy will spend 2 and cast the Wildborn Preserver. There's a 2/2 Elf Archer with Flash and Reach, and whenever another non-human creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay X, and when you do, put X+1/+1 counters on Wildborn Preserver. We'll untap. We'll draw. We get a Xandu Mammoth. Probably good enough here. We'll spend 3 mana and cast a Xandu Mammoth. This is a 3/3 elephant with landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. We'll spend 5 mana to put 5+1/+1 counters on the Wildborn Preserver. That's a big boy, but we can't really push through any damage here on anyone that we want to without losing it. So I think we're just going to hold here, and this will fall off and we'll pass the turn. Aggro and taps. Draw a Shock. We'll spend 4 mana To cast the Torbrand, we need to hold up the defense for now. We can't really punch through effectively, so we'll pass the turn. This guy token falls off, and we'll untap. Rogues draws the swamp. We'll play the swamp. At this point, we might as well spend the 3 mana that we have to take a look at what's under this tile. It's a Shrine to Ixalan. At the beginning of your end step, create a sapling token. It's pretty good. We'll put the remaining one on this 6 here so that no one else can claim it. And so we'll get a treasure and a sapling at the end of the turn and pass. Stompy and taps. Draws a Primal Might. We have a bit of mana, so we'll spend 3 to take a look at this one here. Each opponent sacrifices a creature. Placate the Raptors. Aggro will sacrifice the sapling. Rogues will sacrifice the sapling. We'll put our check on this one, and we will tap all of our mana for Primal Might on the Wildborn Preserver. This is a sorcery. Target creature you control gets +X until end of turn, and then it fights one target creature you don't control. The Wildborn Preserver will become a 11/11, and it will fight the Torbrand. Before the fight triggers, we will tap a mountain, and we'll cast Shock, targeting the Kazandu Mammoth. The Kazandu Mammoth goes down. Preserver takes out Torbrand. Then Stompy will pass the turn. Aggro and taps. Draws a Shock. I think we just want to blow up the flyer. So we'll spend 7 mana, tapping everything, to cast Royal Eruption. It's a sorcery with kicker 5. It deals 3 damage to any target. If this spell was kicked, it deals 5 damage instead, targeting the Vantress Gargoyle. The Gargoyle goes down. And then Aggro will hold defensively and pass the turn. Rogues and taps. Draws a Drown in the Lock. We're going to spend 3 mana to take a look at this tile here. It says it exchanged control of 2 target creatures. Okay, I mean that's not amazing, but we have to do it. So we'll trade the human and the dinosaur between our opponents here. Stompy loses the human and gets the dinosaur. We'll hold Drown in the Lock for defense. Get a sapling and a treasure. And put this here to hold on to it. And then we'll pass the turn. Stompy untaps. Draws a Garruk Unleashed. We'll spend 1 mana to take a look at this tile. This is Sails Unfurled. Okay, we've seen this before. Then we'll spend 4 mana and cast Garruk Unleashed. This is a 4 loyalty legendary Garruk. And for +1, up to 1 target creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample until end of turn. For -2, create a 3/3 green beast creature token. Then if an opponent controls more creatures than you, put a loyalty counter on Garruk Unleashed. And for -7, you get an emblem that says at the beginning of your end step, you may search your library for a creature card, put it onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. Go ahead and +1 Garruk to get him up to 5. We will put that on the dinosaur, making it an 8/8 with trample. We're going to attack rogues with the 8/8 dinosaur. We'll tap 2 mana and cast Drown in the Lock, targeting the dinosaur. This is a instant. It says choose 1. Counter target spell with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of cards in its controller's graveyard to destroy target creature with converted mana cost less than or equal than the number of cards in the controller's graveyard. The dinosaur dies. We have nothing else to do. We'll hold down this number 6 here, and we will pass the turn. Aggro and taps. Draws a Royal Eruption. We have to get rid of that Garruk somehow, so I think we're just going to swing at Garruk with the Bone Crusher Giant. Not wanting to lose Garruk, we'll trade with the Wildborn Preserver. Bone Crusher Giant goes down. We'll spend 7 mana to Royal Eruption down the Garruk-san. Zerasan dies. And then Aggro passes the turn. Rogues and taps. Draws a Soaring Thought Thief. So I think we're just going to hold. We'll get another sapling and treasure. But before that, we'll spend 6 mana and look at this tile. This is melee at the gates. Keep until your next turn. Creatures your opponents control attack each turn if able if they can't attack you. And we'll hold this one and we'll pass the turn. Stompy and taps. Draws a forest. We don't have anything that can attack anyways, so that doesn't matter. We'll go ahead and spend 1 mana to look at this one here, which says create a sapling token and gain 2 life. Here's our sapling. We'll go up to 9. We'll put this on this one over here. Now we have a 1-1, so that actually works out well for us. We have to attack with the Lovestruck Beast, so we'll go ahead and pump the Lovestruck Beast to an 8-8 and swing at aggro. It's not worth it to block, so aggro will take 8 and go to 3, and then Stompy will pass the turn. Aggro untaps, draws a Kargan Intimidator. Alright, well, we'll spend 3 mana to look at this tile. It says the next time an opponent leaves the game, draw 2 cards and create 4 treasure tokens. Okay. We're the most likely people to leave the game here. We'll spend 2 more mana to play a Kargan Intimidator. So we'll have some defense. We'll have Shock Up if we need it. And we have to attack. We have to attack Garruk with the human. That sapling is going to matter. And so Stompy will take 1 and go take Garruk down to 5. And then aggro will pass the turn. At the end of aggro's turn, Rogues will tap 2 and cast a Soaring Thought Thief. Then we'll untap. We'll draw a swamp. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to crack 3 treasures to see what's under here. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by different players. Those creatures fight each other. Alright, we'll have the 1-1 Sapling fight the Kargan Intimidator. Sapling dies. Intimidator dies. Alright, we have some options here now. We're going to go to combat, and we will swing at aggro with the Soaring Thought Thief, and Stompy with 1 Sapling token. This will trigger Blade and Claw, giving them +2/+2 until end of turn. This will mill 2 on each player. Stompy mills a Lovestruck Beast and a Forest. Aggro mills a Mountain and a Castle Embereth. With the triggers on the stack, we'll say goodbye by shocking Rogues in the face. Rogues go to 7. The Garruk takes 3 and goes to 2 loyalty. Aggro dies. Rogues will draw 2 cards for completing their 2 quests. We get a island and a Dismal Backwater. We'll play the Dismal Backwater to gain a life to go back up to 8. We'll get another treasure and sapling. And then Rogues will pass the turn. Stompy untaps. Draws a forest. We'll play a forest. We'll tap 6 mana. And take a look at the card we reserved. This is Oraska of the Golden City. When you reveal this tile or take it from another player, draw 2 cards. At the beginning of your upkeep, draw 2 cards and deal 3 damage to each opponent. We'll take 2 cards. We have a Swarm Shambler and a Primal Might. Go ahead and tap a forest to play a Swarm Shambler. This has a counter, making it a 1-1. It gets another counter actually and has haste. Plusing Garruk. It makes it a 5/5 with trample, and then we will spend 2 more mana to Primal Might it for 1. That'll make it a 6/6 with trample, and it will fight the Soaring Thought Thief. Thought Thief goes down. We'll pull 1 mana back and make it a 5/5 with trample, and then we'll pay the 1 to be able to attack Rogues with the 5/5 Swarm Shambler. Rogues, I think, is going to bet on the number 6 there, and then we'll take 5 and go to 3, and then Stompy will pass the turn. Rogues and taps. Draws a Merfolk Windrobber. It's not ideal here. We'll play the island. We need to overwhelm our opponent here. I think we just play the swamp. Sacrifice 3 treasures and tap 3 more mana to flip this tile, which is the Bloodfast Ends. For each opponent, destroy up to 1 target permanent that player controls. Great. We're going to get rid of Garruk. Garruk goes down. Now we'll have Chumpers for days for my opponent's creatures. We'll spend 1 mana to cast the Merfolk Windrobber. This is a 1/1 Merfolk Rogue, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player mills a card. Sacrifice it to draw a card. Activate this ability only if an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard. And then we will pass the turn, getting another sapling and another treasure. Rogues unfortunately forgot about Oraska of the Golden City, as we untap all of Stompy's cards, and we'll draw 2 cards, getting a Wildwood Tracker and a Turn Timber Symbiosis, but more importantly, Rogues will take 3 and perish this turn. That will give Stompy the win here with Oraska of the Golden City. That was a long game. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of my videos, you can hit subscribe. This was a Refresh. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.